This is Hunter back with another Dash Design tutorial video. Today we're going to be going over the performance timers aspect of the Dash Design software, showing you how to create the performance timers as well as adding them to your display and adding some other functions just so that they work a little bit better. Let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is you want to open up your layout. Here we have a layout from one of our tech guys, Ping. Thank you, Ping, for lending us your layout for this demo. We're going to go to the Setup tab, and we're going to confirm our speed input is set up correctly. For our speed input on Ping's dash, he has a GPS dash, so we're going to change the speed input to GPS-I for the internal GPS on the dash. That'll give us the non-driven wheel speed so that we can accurately calculate the 0 to 60 times, the 100 foot, the 330 foot, so on and so forth. So we'll set that to GPS-I speed as the speed input. And then for the odometer speed input, while we're at it, we'll go ahead and change that just to the speed input as well, so that the output that this top item creates is then being used for the odometer as well. That'll give us the most accurate odometer setup for this application. So next we're going to decide on what timers we want to create. So we'll create a couple of simple ones and then you can go on from there. I went ahead in the layout and picked screen 3 for our configuration. We're going to go ahead and create a 0 to 60 timer, a 0 to 100 mile per hour timer. We're going to make a 330 foot, a quarter mile, and then we'll also make an 1/8 mile timer and a 60-foot timer. So now that we got those relatively well spaced out, let's go into our timers and we'll start to create a couple of these. So the first one we're going to make is going to be our 0 to 60 mile per hour timer, and we're going to use the quick setup feature. So we'll make sure that it's set up as a performance timer. We'll go to quick setup. We'll do a speed range timer, so it calculates speed from 0 to 60 and it starts counting. So our input here will have it start counting when it's greater than let's call it 0.1 miles per hour, and then we'll add our next one. So we'll continue this process 0 to 100 miles per hour. Use the quick setup again for a speed range, this time inputting 0 to 100. So we have 2 of our speed timers knocked out. And then next we're going to do our 60-foot timer. Once again, quick setup, distance timer. Only this time we'll set feet here, 60. Okay. Now, one thing to note here is that when you are starting this start input, this is based on the units right here. So in this case, feet per second. So we'll need to make sure that this value is consistent with when we want it to start based on those units. For example, if I wanted it to start when I was going greater than 0.1 miles per hour, that's equivalent to, I believe, 0.14 feet per second. So that'll start counting up when speed is greater than 0.1 miles per hour or 0.14 feet per second. And we'll continue that process for our next couple. 330 feet timer, quick setup, distance timer. Setup, distance timer, distance of 0.125 miles, okay. This is another one where we need to keep careful eye on the units. In this case, because I'm doing an 1/8 mile, and in my quick setup, my units were miles instead of feet. Now, the units that everything's based off of will be miles per second. If we want to keep the consistent start of 0.1 miles per hour as when we start timing, we'll want to change this to 0.0002, I believe. That's our 1/8 mile timer. Add another one for our quarter mile timer. Quick setup, distance, quarter mile, okay. And 0.0002. One more 0. With these speed inputs as well, you can have them start based on a number of features. So a lot of people will have these start when the speed input is over a given threshold, as well as when, say, throttle is over a given threshold. Personally, I don't use the throttle threshold because if you're drag racing and throttle is 100%, on the line when you're on the two-step, then the performance timer will activate potentially a little bit too soon. So that's why I just really dial in that speed input value. Next, we can go over the resetting of the timer. The timer is going to be reset when the reset button's held, but we can also add an additional value on when that channel will reset. So if speed gets below a given point, we can also have the timer reset so that if you're doing multiple runs, it'll just reset automatically when you slow down or stop all the way. So for that, we need to create an alarm. So we'll go over here to alarms, add a new alarm. We'll call this timer reset. And we'll just make this very simple. So the timers will reset when the GPS speed is below 0.1 mile per hour. So we want GPS speed less than 0.1. Condition of logic. Just going to do it based off that one, and that'll allow the timers to reset. So we can go through these timers and add our timer reset alarm that we just created as another condition that they can be reset by. So we'll just go through and confirm that we have that set up, just so it's consistent across the board, when we go to the track. Alright, so then on our screens, screen 3 is where we have our section ready for our performance timers. So we'll go ahead and start putting them down. So we can just copy this guy over, change the font and the input. This is just a value. So if you used the 3.1, pulled the numeric value down right here, that'll get you this item. You can reduce the font by about half, go up to input, set our 0 to 60 timer. So that's this one right here. Now, another thing to note is on the number format for these timer values, we need to make sure that we have it set up rather than to show the numbers as hashtags, we need to set it to show seconds. So if we do ss.ff, that'll show us seconds, tenths, and hundredths of seconds. Put that right here, and you'll see that it now changes to a default of ss.ff instead of the 0.0, because these are going to be seconds rather than numbers, so the dash treats it a little bit different. So we'll go ahead and copy and paste each of these, changing the input as we go along. Select all of them just by holding Control and clicking each item. Make sure they're set up on the same axes, 775. They're all lined up nicely. Another cool feature that we can integrate is we can have the dash actually change to page 3 after these timers are completed. If you knew at what speed you went through the traps, for your quarter mile, you could then create another alarm to then switch to that page. And we've done that before for a couple drag racers. I can show you an example right now. Here's a dash that Randy, one of our tuners out there, created for one of our racers, Tim Gray. What's cool about this dash, there's an additional channel here that was created to switch the screen to a different page when something happens. This was done by creating an additional alarm called switch to page 4. The conditions on this alarm are over 150 miles an hour and less than 5% throttle. The idea was to have the screen switch to the timing page at the end of the pass. We knew that Tim had a trap speed of above or around 150, and then when the throttle came back down, it would switch. Now this alarm will output a 0 or a 1, depending on if it's active or not, on or off. I then created another channel based on that alarm, so that channel would then equal 4. So we have switched to screen 4 input, 1 equals 4. So it would go 0, 0, and then 1 would then equal 4. Then we went into our setup, and there's a page select source option in here that allows you to define an input that'll switch the page. When the dash sees this channel go to show a value other than 0, so in this case it goes from 0 to 4, it automatically will then switch to screen 4 where the lap timing is set up. So guys, let me know what you think. If you have any questions on the setup or anything like that, leave us a comment down below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn the bell on for notifications. Let us know what you want to see in a future video. We're always, open to making new tutorials to help you guys out. Let us know what you want to see. Take care, guys.